absolutely insane. And so to charge a Hummer EV here, let's say you're on a road trip, that car doesn't get huge range, you're gonna have to do a deep charge. That would cost $250 with some losses, maybe actually a bit more. That's insane. And by the way, because it's only 50 kilowatts, it would take about 6 hours to charge that vehicle. Hello and welcome to Shreveport, Louisiana. Welcome to another Out of Spec Reviews video, and welcome to the Porsche Taycan we're taking on a road trip. It's actually been extremely interesting because EV infrastructure in the US has gotten so good and so prevalent, truly, that I never plan trips anymore. It's when I'm at that charging station charging, that's when I look at my next stop. However, yesterday we were charging up in Tuscaloosa, Alabama at the Mercedes-Benz factory, and I looked for our next charging stop, and then I realized there were none. It's been years since I've been able, or haven't been able to just easily get across. Now, we've had charging station reliability issues, we've had, just connection issues at chargers, but they've always had at least some infrastructure in place over the last few years, except for this very well-traveled section of I-20. It is a busy interstate through a very needed travel corridor, and to much of my surprise, there's not much DC fast charging infrastructure here. It's coming, but I want to at least talk about the problem, what we've experienced, and some of the ways we've seen EV drivers make it across the DC fast charging desert of the South. I'll run inside the car and show you in a map in just a moment, but we are on a road trip in the Porsche Taycan. Hopefully you saw Anna's delivery video of this, and we're driving from, we left New York, we went to Pennsylvania to pick this up, we just went to Atlanta to drop off that Panamera plug-in hybrid I had on test, and then we decided, well, I have to go to Phoenix to drive the Hyundai Ioniq 6 in an upcoming video. And so we're on our way out to go make those videos in Phoenix, and we decided to, rather than fly, well, let's drive out the Taycan, make a road trip of it. So we left Atlanta, we started our Out of Spec Motoring road trip video that'll come later at the Porsche Experience Center in Atlanta. Really cool place, charging on the Porsche fast chargers, 270 kilowatts ripping. And then we used some Electrify America stations, went through Birmingham, stopped in Tuscaloosa. They have a beautiful brand new 6-stall Electrify America station. Plug and charge worked, 270 kilowatts. We were there for 20 minutes or so, charged pretty much to full. And then we were like, well, where do we go after this? And that's where the madness kind of happened. What I'd like to do is take you inside on the map. I'll show you what we've experienced so far. And for those who live in the South, you guys know about this stretch. Well, I live in Colorado, and very rarely do I ever have to transit east of Dallas. And if I do, I'm usually, well, in a Tesla, to be honest. I've driven this stretch many times in a Tesla and had no issues. It is crazy that there are no high-powered DC fast charging infrastructure, even today in 2023, along this stretch. What's even cooler, though, is there are so many EV drivers now that people have sort of developed this network on their own to get cars across, not relying on these big public networks. There's chargers like this, the standalone 50 kilowatt charger that is the link between Dallas and the rest of the East Coast, taking I-20. This charger literally has charged many EVs needing to get across, and without it, it would be impossible to do this stretch without staying at level 2 chargers for hours on end. So I want to talk a little bit about the infrastructure we're using, but first let me show you on a map so our viewers who may not be from the area can see some of the distances and the sizes we're talking about here. It's a good thing Anna got the big battery in the Taycan because we've been using it. Well, you join us here charging up the Taycan. We are at, let's take a look, 62% state of charge. We are in Shreveport, Louisiana, and we are getting 49.4 kilowatts from the 50 kilowatt ABB charger at a Cadillac dealer. We'll talk about that in a second. Let's go in here and let me show you on a map what the heck we're talking about. This is the problem. So we left Atlanta, we drove through Birmingham, we stopped at a high power charger, I don't know, somewhere here in Tuscaloosa. And then we started to look for infrastructure around. What's funny is Porsche thinks these charge points are 235 kilowatts. They're not. They're just CPE 250s. So I don't know why they're labeled incorrectly. But we made it to Jackson, no problem, right? We did a pretty deep charge in Tuscaloosa, and we made it to here. This is no issue at all. We charged at a BMW dealer in Jackson. There's also a charge point one. Again, only 62 kilowatts. The BMW dealer is actually labeled in the Porsche as a 24 kilowatt charger. I believe it's this one right here. But they have the fastest charger there. So we were in the back of a parking lot in Jackson, Mississippi with like sirens going off, you know, you're trespassing, blah, blah, blah. And then it's like, oh, you're allowed to be here, but if we notice suspicious activity, we're gonna call the cops. I don't know. Welcome to a Rate Your Charge update. This is pretty crazy, actually. We're on I-20 in Jackson, Mississippi at a BMW Chevrolet dealer and Infiniti as well. So 3 brands that are known to go together often. Actually, I've never seen this before. That's the main highway. There are no high-power DC chargers along this stretch. We've actually snuck in through an open gate, thankfully, to use this charger. The whole alarm system of the whole place went off, but it actually said we're allowed to be here, but if they notice any suspicious activity, like a Rate Your Charge check-in, they might kick us out. However, this is open to the public. These chargers, they have a whole bunch of level 2 chargers, some lower power DC chargers, and then these ABB chargers. This one is branded at a 180 kilowatt unit. We're only getting 90 out of it at the moment, and the Taycan doesn't seem to want any more than 90 kilowatts. It's on the old ABB software, so it doesn't show charging speeds. There's a new Terra 184 right here. However, they spec'd it in the low power configuration with 200 amp cables rather than the 400 amp cables. So still not going to be able to get more than 75 or 80 kilowatts on most cars out of this one. Again, it's not up to the dealer to provide high power charging infrastructure for the whole country. Would have been great if they spec the high power one. Would really be great when the EA chargers go online on this stretch. There's 2 chargers that are missing. They're installed, I believe, but not turned on. And I feel like we're road tripping from 10 years ago. We have to find a hotel somewhere around Shreveport, Louisiana. Otherwise, we can't make it over to Texas. So it's road tripping old school days. I kind of like it. It's kind of fun. But yeah, definitely is like going back in time here on I-20. We needed to charge, and it was, I don't know, 10 p.m., something like that, 9 or 10 p.m. And we did a near 100% charge in Jackson. And the plan was to stretch it from Jackson to here in Shreveport and then to Dallas. It's almost 200 miles from Jackson to Shreveport and 200 miles from Shreveport to Dallas. And those are big distances. This Taycan can do easily 200 miles on one charge. But that's because we have the big battery, and even though we have the big wheels, they're kind of the aero ones. If you had a Turbo S with the Mission E wheels, that might be a challenge. If you had the small battery, that might be a challenge. If you even have an Ioniq 5 and it's cold out, that could be a challenge. So 200 miles is like deep charges on most modern electric cars. Mini Cooper SE couldn't get through here, but you know, it's sort of doable. And so that's why I think the stretch hasn't been like that well covered, at least from my side, because people are able to get across, but it's pretty wild. So we did a 100% charge in Jackson. Then we decided we'll make it with enough charge to get here. We actually stayed overnight at some hotels, or we stayed at one hotel, but there are hotels along this stretch. However, when you start looking at the plug share results, it's like 4 chargers and you need this weird Gravity EV app and they're all offline. And then we called them to like see if they could make them online. They're like, no, sorry. So there's quite a few hotels with Tesla destination chargers. We did not bring our Tesla to J1772 charger, but that would make the most sense if you can stay overnight somewhere along this and full charge at a level 2. We attempted to do that last night where we pulled into a hotel in Monroe, Louisiana. We stayed at the Hampton Inn there, I believe. Really nice hotel. They have 2 Tesla wall connectors and 1 J1772 plug. And because there's a supercharger across the street, I think Tesla owners get through there no problem. But there were 3 J1772 cars, 3 non-Teslas. There was us and the Taycan. There was a Mustang Mach-E and a Hyundai Ioniq 5. The Mach-E wasn't parked near the charger, so maybe they're staying for a few days and didn't need to charge. But I don't know what their deal was. But we arrived to the hotel, and there was an Ioniq 5 doing a pretty deep charge. And the Ioniq 5 has pixels on the charge port, so when I looked at it, you could see it was almost fully charged. So I pulled the Porsche right next to the Ioniq 5 and left the charging port open on the driver's side, which is the auxiliary charging port on this car, and thought, hey, if we get lucky, hopefully this dude will just plug us in. And he did. He left at, I don't know, 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, because that's when we got the notification that this car started charging. And we went from about 52% state of charge to 82% state of charge by the time we left. And that was really great. Again, we had planned to make it here, and the Taycan has very little phantom drain, so we would have arrived here pretty much dead, but we actually arrived here at around 40% state of charge. So that was hugely impressive. Thank you to that guy for plugging us in. Whoever you are, Ioniq 5 owner from Louisiana, I don't know, he had Texas plates, but in Louisiana, that saved us, again, maybe almost 40 minutes and $40 at this charger. We'll talk about that too. So we made it here to Shreveport. Now, what's our next move? We need to make it over to Dallas. And this charger right here, this Electrify America charger, is really the one we need to get to. It's 186 miles to that charger. So we probably can charge to 85 or 90% state of charge and make that comfortably. There are pretty much no alternate charging options. It's 214 miles. Oh, that's going out of our way to get to another charger. So this is Porsche Charging Planner trying to get us there by adding in different chargers. We're not going to do that. We're going to be taking I-20 into Dallas and charging perhaps at that one. I don't know. We'll figure it out. I'll check PlugShare. But basically, we had to come and stop at the lone 50 kilowatt charger to make it across this stretch. So now that you get an idea of the distances, let's talk about the infrastructure we used and how people are doing this, because it's pretty interesting. So I showed you guys that funny charger in Jackson, and by funny I mean, like, I don't know anyone that would want to be there by themselves in the middle of the night charging. Not the safest area of town, just like sirens screaming at you, people on the loudspeaker screaming at you, but we were able to charge at 90 kilowatts on a 180 kilowatt branded charger. So if coming from the east to the west, that's sort of the last DC charger that has usable power. And then this is the next spot. So there are 2 single chargers that link Dallas to Birmingham, or Atlanta basically. And that was one of them. And this is the other. This is a single 50 kilowatt ABB charger. If this charger goes down, if this charger goes offline, your trip time gets at least 12 hours added to it. So this single 50 kilowatt unit is literally keeping I-20 running with electric vehicles. And it's a 125 amp charger, so we're getting the full 50 kilowatts on the Taycan, and all is good here. And I believe it's actually DC output up to 950 volts. It is. So we are not even using the onboard booster in the Taycan. It's able to actually match pack voltage, which is pretty sweet. It helps with some efficiencies. The pricing is really funny. The BMW dealer in Jackson that we stopped at was completely free. We just plugged in, charged, and it didn't charge us anything. And it's open to the public. We made sure we didn't like steal someone's juice. So that was great. This is the opposite situation. This Cadillac dealer, they know what they got. They know that this is the link, and they charge $1 per kilowatt hour. Absolutely insane. And so to charge a Hummer EV here, let's say you're on a road trip, that car doesn't get huge range, you're gonna have to do a deep charge. That would cost $250 with some losses, maybe actually a bit more. That's insane. And by the way, because it's only 50 kilowatts, it would take about 6 hours to charge that vehicle, because again, it's gonna taper as you get up top. So 6 hours and $250 is what this would do to a Hummer EV. For our Taycan, we only need to spend about an hour here from the time we plugged in to done, and it's going to cost us about 50 bucks. We'll add about 50 kilowatt hours. Now, what's actually kind of cool about this is they have really steep idle fees. I read it initially that they charge you $50 per hour on top of your electricity rate. That's not the case. In the EV Connect app, which you need to use to activate this charger, they charge $50 per hour idle fees. Finally, someone gets it. For this being such an important link between Dallas and the rest of the country heading east, it's very important that you charge, you got to do deep charges, you get what you need, and you get out so that the next person can charge. And the Cadillac dealer recognized that, and they charge $50 per hour of idle fees. So very pleased to see that. And well, let's see, this is 2023 in March at the moment, end of March going into April. And what's to come? Well, it sounds like there are 2 big boy 350 kilowatt Electrify America stations going in. I believe one here in Shreveport and perhaps in Monroe, I think is what I heard. Either way, this stretch is about to be filled in. My understanding is that the chargers are in the ground, they just haven't been turned on yet. What's crazy is also, I posted on Twitter about this a little bit, is Louisiana got specifically a ton of money from the Volkswagen Dieselgate. And I believe only one charger has been installed from that settlement so far. And it's a 30 kilowatt charger in the back of some random parking lot, which isn't going to do anything for anyone. So I'd really love to hear what's going on in Louisiana. Maybe some folks know and can comment with the funding for DC fast charging infrastructure. It seems like it's being mismanaged at the glance of it, but I'd like to know what's going on. Other states have installed amazing networks of DC chargers. North Carolina, Colorado are two that come to mind that I've seen. Or I should say only one here in this state. So something's going on there that needs to be explored. And, you know, props to the Cadillac dealer for coning off this charging spot. Maybe not props to them for charging an arm and a leg, but hey, they know what they got. And these travelers here, we need to pay to charge. I'm all for free market. If you got it and they got to pay for it and you know the price ahead of time, which we did, then nothing is unexpected. It's not ideal, but hey, it is what it is. Anyway, that's the I-20 charging desert at the moment. Pretty insane that this still exists on such a major highway corridor in the US, especially going into some of the most populated cities in Texas, where there are a ton of electric cars in Texas. So there you go. Just wanted to bring this quick little video for you, tell you what we're up to, and you'll see the full motoring road trip at some point soon. But man, the great southern DC fast charging desert exists. It's real, but it sounds like it's going to be fixed soon. So I'm not going to make a huge deal of it, or, you know, I don't think it's that big of a problem once these EA chargers go online. I'll leave you with one last thought. Tesla has started adding Magic Dock connectors to their superchargers, so CCS equipped vehicles can charge on their charging equipment. Why did they start? I understand they did New York and California first, but because it's closer to their facilities. But why has it not already expanded out to the middle of nowhere? Should take no time to retrofit these chargers. They have supercharger techs across the country. I really think Tesla needs to retrofit these superchargers as soon as possible with Magic Dock on corridors that don't support CCS charging reliably. Relying on one 50 kilowatt charger that the site host, in all transparency, could just rip out of the ground at any day, there's no protection for this being here, is no way to travel. And I think with Tesla opening up their network, they can do a lot to help EV drivers. I'm just not seeing them use this Magic Dock to actually help EV drivers yet, but I hope they do so soon. There's Montana, there's the Dakotas, there's where we live near Wyoming. So many opportunities to open up new corridors for CCS cars, and I really hope they do that soon. So thanks for watching another Out of Spec Reviews video. I hope you enjoyed this one. It really feels like we're back 10 years ago road tripping. Maybe, you know, you'd find the rare DC charger. The rest of it was done at hotels or campgrounds. And, you know, I kind of missed those days. So I'm getting a little taste of the adventure spirit back. But this is no way for electric vehicles to take over in masses. So pretty wild, the disparity of charging across the country. See you in another video soon. Bye-bye.